Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first day of the scientific part of the SNT 2021. I hope you had a good high-level opening yesterday, and many of you joined us and looked at the amazing event from the day. This morning, we'll have the first roundtable, and we have a nice group of guinea pigs with us, guinea pig convener and Q&A moderator here. So bear with us, we'll try to make it work well, and we'll try to make it work seamlessly. So this morning, the first roundtable is about two topics, topic 1.1, and you can check the complete title in the program, and topic 1.3, so atmosphere and oceans. And the sequence will be, we'll start with the ocean talk for the first about 12 minutes, and then we'll move on to the infrasound atmospheric science presenters for the next 20-30 minutes. And if we have questions at the end, we'll circulate questions around. But let's see how it works, and we'll adapt with the flow. So will be Noyuki Kushida, and Peter will be my co-host. Peter Nielsen will be the one leading the way.
Thank you very much, Eric, and good morning, good day, good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to convene this session about hydroacoustics. We have 6 talks, 5 authors, and I will just mention the names, and then I will give the floor to the name that I'm presenting, and they have 2 minutes to introduce their poster. And the first is Noyuki Kushida. Please, Noyuki.
Am I sharing the presentation?
Yes, we see your presentation. Yes.
Go to slide.
Can you go to slideshow mode, please?
And do you see the slideshow?
This is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My talk is titled Global Hydroacoustic Simulation on High Performance Computer. That means we are going to present efforts to accelerate our hydroacoustic simulation codes. This is the summary of my talk, but of course, hydroacoustic analysis involves a lot of complex phenomena, and in that sense, using the numerical simulation programs is quite helpful to understand what happens during the propagation process of hydroacoustic. And of course, in that sense, full 3D simulation will be the best choice to know what happens exactly. But the 3D simulation is quite expensive in terms of computer power, and we are going to port the two codes actually to the GPU systems. And in this presentation, we use an NVIDIA DGX station. And this is a result of speed up, and we selected one code named 3D-SSFP parabolic equation solver, and we achieved almost 20 times acceleration from the one core CPU code, and also we ported FBTD code, and in this case we achieved almost 100 times acceleration from one core CPU. And also this code is parallelized onto the cluster system, and the parallelization efficiency is quite ideal. So our effort is not just for convenience, but the high computer power enables us to find some scientific achievement, and actually Dr. Tiago Oliveira presents some of such scientific achievement at the poster of P1.3-425. If you are interested, please also visit his poster. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Noyuki. Please post your Q&As on the app, and please wait asking questions until the end of the session here. The next speaker is Ivana Jukic. Please, Ivana, the floor is yours.
Right. Can you see my presentation?
Boyuki, can you unshare your screen, please?
Yeah, that's a problem.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do not. Mhm.
Can you unshare your screen, Yuki?
I'm sorry, trying to.
If you did. Okay. Ivana, you can start talking if you don't mind, and then share your view graphs slides later.
Okay, no problem. Hi everybody, I'm Ivana Jukic and I work for CTBTO as analyst. The main goal of this presentation is to show the results of, can you see me now? Can you see?
Please, yeah, try to share. Yeah, there you are.
Okay, okay.
Slide mode, please.
Okay, I go now. The main goal of this presentation is to show the results of processing observed laterally refractory hydroacoustic signals generated by underwater impulsive sound sources. We analyzed five known underwater explosions detonated close to the east coast of Florida in 2016 and 4 impulsive underwater sources from the Pacific Northwest area recorded on 6 August 2020. In both cases, we observe impulsive direct arrival and 1 minute later lower in energy secondary arrival. We assume these secondary arrivals are due to coastal reflections. Another slide. Here we can see an example of hydroacoustic signal back azimuth processing for a direct arrival and secondary arrival. To estimate back azimuths, we use IDC standard hydroacoustic analysis tool HART and PMCC. HART and PMCC provided the good estimates for the direct and secondary arrivals from the Florida explosion. The secondary arrivals have direction and arrival times compatible with lateral reflections from the continental shelf of the east coast of Florida and Bahama Islands, as shown in Figure 7. The HART and PMCC estimates for the direct arrivals are quite similar from the Pacific Northwest area. The back azimuth estimates of secondary arrivals obtained by HART are compatible with reflection from the area of Wake Island, as shown in Figure 15. PMCC and HART seem to have a little bit different behaviors and capabilities for reflections. The secondary arrivals do not correlate well across the three hydrophones, and maybe that explains why PMCC does not see good signal, or it could be also that has to do with proximity of Wake Island. Thank you very much. Let me unmute.
Thank you, Ivana.
How do I?
The next speaker is Mario. Mario, your first 2 minutes, please.
Yes, thank you. I will come right away. Thank you, Peter. And I hope you see the screen now. So the first poster is about some short duration broadband signals which we see at hydrophone stations, and which you see them here on the right in the spectrogram. When we do our quality check of our hydro stations and we see sounds like these, sometimes we think, oh, these almost look like electronic noise or crackle, but it turns out that they are quite similar to sounds that have been reported in the literature, and some of the more relevant recent publications are listed here below, which are attributed to right wave vocalizations, which seem to be a topic of increasing interest in the community that studies these types of whales. It was for quite some time, it was not clear what sounds these whales even make. And so this example that we're seeing here on the screen comes from H04 Crozet, France, in the southern Indian Ocean. But we do see sounds like these also at other stations. And so this presentation is really just to throw a little bit the stone in the pond and highlight that it could be interesting for researchers studying these types of whales to look extensively at the data records from our 6 hydrophone stations that are marked here in white on the world map. For example, the thesis by Ward from Australia, it's a PhD thesis from 2020, presents also data from H01, but here we can see this nice example from H04. And there are other sounds. There are other signals which are also of interest, which we see here, one from H01, here, one from H04, which we are not sure whether these seem to be, in this case, something near the hydrophone, in this case, clearly in the water and propagates enough to reach all 3 hydrophones in the triplet, and seems a bit similar to a low frequency end of a right whale pulsive call. What's important to note is that the right whales especially have very broadband sounds, and so we are looking always only at a lower frequency limit, limited by our 250 hertz. So
Thanks, Mario. Thanks.
it's the first one, and I will switch off this one. I will go to the next.
Can you go full screen, please, in slide mode?
Yes, do you see it?
Slideshow, please.
Do you see it, Peter?
You see it, but can you make it bigger by going to slide mode?
Oh, yes.
Slide mode?
Well, yes.
F5.
Yes, this is here. Here. So this presentation here shows this presentation. This slideshow refers to some engineering work that we're doing. Again, here the hydrophone stations with all their locations. Well, the architecture of the hydrophone stations is that they are one string, one fiber optic cable connecting to a triplet of hydrophones, which are suspended in the water column at so far channel depth. And right now, these systems are deployed all in one go. They're all pre-integrated on the ship, in the factory and on the ship. So it's possible to deploy them very efficiently, very rapidly. However, if anything breaks in any of these systems, if there's any issue, well, you either leave it as is, or you have to remove the entire triplet and replace it, which is a little bit too much effort, and also it's bound to be very, very expensive. So for this reason, we've been working for several years with various outside contributors on modular designs, which employ wet-made connector technology, which is becoming very proven and reliable, which with wet-made connectors placed strategically around the triplet so that individual components can be disconnected and reconnected underwater to do replacements using ROVs. But one critical thing is that we want to preserve the efficient deployment in one go of the present system. And for this, we basically have to work, and that's what we have developed in the last year with some contractors, a mechanism that goes at these 2 points, it's labeled latch here, where the trunk cable or the internode cable connect to the node. And these mechanisms basically are designed to take away to isolate the wet-made connectors that are back here from all the deployment loads. So they transfer all the deployment loads to the structure, hold the cable tight, but can be opened after deployment so that you can then, at these 2 points, detach, for example, the node and remove the entire node and replace it. So this is
Thank you, Mario. The next speaker is Julien Vergos. Julien, please.
Yes, can you hear me? I share my screen. Can you see my one slide presentation?
Very well, very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the IMS network of hydrophone stations is very sparse because it only consists of 6 stations unevenly distributed in the different oceans. However, compared to land-based T-phase stations, these low-noise hydrophone stations provide incredible high-quality data, which detection capability is significantly enhanced by broadband array processing. And in this e-poster, we focused on the detection and the location capabilities of these hydrophone stations and on the benefits of performing detections at low level. The main disadvantage of the remote monitoring of acoustic sources with hydroacoustic technology is that propagation can be effectively blocked by large bathymetric structures such as islands or seamounts. And that is why, first of all, we propose high-resolution station coverage maps based on simple geometric obstructions, obstruction assumptions. And we noted that these maps explain well at first order the detection patterns of hydrophone stations. So for example, in the Indian Ocean, here, this allows to identify the dominant sources associated to detecting hydroacoustic signals. And we estimate that the most active sources are associated first to icebergs from Antarctica, second to earthquakes and volcanism as spreading centers, third to airgun surveys, and fourth to marine mammals, and in particular fin whales. Moreover, the high precision of the estimated back-ADMS and the almost constant long-range celerities of hydroacoustic waves in the Sopar channel are such that the development of an association procedures is reliable from simple cross-bearings and constant velocity models. And we find that built automatic events match the calculated coverage maps, and you obtain a low-level pictures of the unmasked active seismic areas and iceberg events. And 1,000 of events are built, which is significantly more than the number of events found in global seismic catalogs, even if it strongly depends on the event locations. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Glenn. And the next is myself, Peter Nielsen. I don't have any view graphs, so I'll just give a summary. And the poster that we produced is about refinement of hydrophone coordinates. Deploying a hydrophone station is very complex, and it's happening in more than 10 up to 2,000 meters of water depth. So knowing the location of the anchor and the hydrophone itself is very important in order to get a good estimate of the back azimuth of an event. And the further away that event is detected, and the more error you have in estimating the back azimuth, the more horizontal displacement you will have in your end result. So we apply an algorithm that was developed at the CTBTO in the mid-2006, and it uses well-defined events that have been through human review. And what it does is that it compares the locations of events that has been detected and associated with many stations, and then compare the back azimuth just with the station hydrophone station that you consider. And we found that there are room for refinement of coordinates, and we found that there could be errors. We applied it for HA03 off the coast of Chile for a period after it was wiped out by the huge tsunami in 2010. And we found that the corrections for the northern station could be as high as 4.12 degrees. Now, those new coordinate estimates we implemented in a totally independent software that was developed by the French NDC at CEA to estimate back azimuth using that algorithm, and that confirms the validity of what was found by the Hydroacoustic, which was the CTBTO development. And we use scientific data to verify that. And there are two things I would like to emphasize here. That is, performance measures corrections to IMS stations using data that is not the main purpose use of the IMS stations. And then using scientific data with very accurate logs and detailed information.
Thank you, Peter. Hello, me again. So we are playing the musical chairs in Vienna, and while we are doing the same in all over the world with our speaker, we are moving out of the water to go into the atmosphere. So I just give a second to Sven Peter Nasholm to prepare himself, and just want to mention to all the people, the viewers live and the one to be watching it later, that we have sent a message about video rooms, and these video rooms, the goal is that you can meet authors. So if you put in the comment, oh, I would like to meet, I don't know, for instance, Peter Nielsen, you can say, could you meet me in a Sim2 video room, and we can meet after this meeting, and you can continue discussing on the e-posters, on the presentation. So it's a good solution for you to discuss about your posters and to meet authors and to meet the participants. There is 10 video rooms available on the web platform, so please make use of it. I think it's a nice feature to continue the discussion. And now I see that Sven Peter Nasholm is ready and is about to explain us all about his research. So Sven Peter, please.
Hello. So this little promotion of our paper. So essentially, this work is led by
Peter,
our
we see your full screen. So could you? And we only see everything.
Yeah. Sorry, I was too quick. Share content and
slideshow, I think. Yeah.
Preview. Okay, is the zooming better? No. Okay, let me.
Slideshow. If you do slideshow on top and see next to the scale, you see slideshow. Yeah.
Something like this.
Perfect.
Well, this is essentially work by our PhD student, Kate. So you might be interested sometimes in assessing the Microbarum soundscape at your station. And when you do that, it could be necessary to, in a way, compare apples to apple and to exploit the fact that the array can resolve power in all directions. So we really want to avoid applying the maximum operator, where sometimes people look for the maximum power and then say that the microbarums come from that direction. But here we instead apply the well-known vespagram technique, which is well established, where we deploy, we deploy beams around a fixed apparent velocity, and then we measure the power for each direction. Then if we go to the slightly complicated picture on the right, we have time on the horizontal axis. So for each time window, here around 1 hour, we measure the power as a function of directions. So directions we have, for example, on panel B on the vertical axis. So this we can do both for the modeling of the microbarum soundscape, and there are several approaches for this, and this was modeled by Marine De Carlo. So here we essentially see at the station the output of the model as a function of time and direction. But then we have to realize that the array has a certain resolution. So here you see different steered response estimates for different frequencies. So here, to compare apples to apples, we smooth out the model based on the array resolution. And then we have the vespagram raw data from the station on panel D. So here we have time and direction. And here there is, of course, more noise in real data than in the model. So here you compare model to data. But then in addition, on each time window, we normalize so that the maximum is 1. So when you compare apples to apples, for model, you look at panel F. And for recordings, you look at panel G. So here we see that we have a quite good correspondence between model and data. And this we can, of course, do for several time windows, for several frequency ranges. And one of the long-term goals is, of course, to exploit the microbarum data recorded to do, for example, model diagnostics of atmospheric models, for example, because the atmospheric models are highly influencing the microbarum soundscape recorded at the station. So on the bottom panel, you have a straightforward scoring where we, as a function of time, compare the model to the data.
Thank you, Peter. So I invite everybody to meet Peter in the video room. So please send us comments and to have Peter stay in the video room and discuss with him after a while. And then we are moving on to Sandro Matos now. So Sandro, you have the floor.
Thank you. Share. Okay, you saw my window?
Yes.
Okay, so the use of the ground truth data from natural and man-made atmospheric extreme events offers here the opportunity to evaluate the long-range detection capabilities of the IMS infrasound network. So in order to verify this capability of the IS-42 station and other IMS station to detect the long-range ground truth events following previous works, this presentation was focused on the event of 2020 of Stromboli and the 2020 August 4 the Beirut City Harbor explosion. So infrasound stations were selected from 500 kilometers to 3,600 kilometers related to Stromboli, and from 2,400 and 8,900 in the case of the Beirut. So in order to identify these coherent infrasound signal detections on the selected back azimuths, the data were selected and retrieved with an MS client application. Then we process using the progressive multi-channel correlation algorithm, PMCC, and then we analyze with the interactive analysis tool like GeoTool and DTK PMCC from CEA days. All these tools are integrated in the NDC in the box that is supplied by the IDC, and then we can conclude that the detection and location capability of the IMS infrasound stations for long-range explosive events has been confirmed by these two recent events linked to Stromboli volcano and to Beirut Harbor. Infrasound data analysis allow it to determine the source locations for the two analysis events with a good approximation with respect to the ground truth events. And finally, the results in this study show that is a good degree in consistency with the IDC REP, and this helped me and helps to tuning and validating the future analysis of events with this adopted methodology. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandro. Very nice. So we'll move on more to the west and we'll ask Philip Blom to now talk about his poster. Phil, you have the floor.
Sure. Let me pull up my slides. It looks like I can't share yet, but I'll go ahead and start talking. So I'm presenting an overview of a couple of open source software packages that we've developed at the laboratory. I've made it a point, as I've been doing some research to take a little bit of time after I publish a paper and clean up source code, write up some documentation, and open source the underlying software that's been developed. So InfraPy, InfraGA, GeoAc, and StockProp are three infrasound-specific open source tools that we've developed recently. And the poster is highlighting some details of those and then demonstrating an application to the Beirut explosion that happened last year that was discussed in the previous poster. There's a number of open source.
Can you put full screen, because we only see a part of the screen? Can you put it in full screen in slideshow?
Sure. Do we need to swap displays, or is that good?
I know, we know, yeah, because you're in presenter view, so we have the next slide as well. So I think it's go out of it because we see even less
Better?
now. No, yeah, now it's better. It's better. Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. So these are open source tools that we've been developed. InfraPy is a signal analysis tool suite. InfraGA GeoAc is a geometric acoustics ray tracing software suite, and StockProp is a propagation statistics set of tools that we've been developing that's soon to be open sourced. These are all posted on the Volcanic Seismoacoustics GitHub page, and there's a number of other open source tools that we're developing on the team. I think I've probably hit my 2 minutes. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but feel free to contact me if you have questions about these. They're already pretty widely used by the community, but there's some features that people may not be aware of. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. So while you answer your presentation, we will be preparing to go to Patrick Huppe in Germany. Patrick, it's your turn.
Thank you, Pierrick. One moment, please. So here's my screen. So our e-poster is about recent advances in reprocessing the full international monitoring system infrasound data, a collaboration between CEA and BGR. The international monitoring system now consists of 53 certified infrasound arrays and continues to grow. So this is a good reason to reprocess or process the existing as well as new data on a regular basis, because having a comprehensive picture of the coherent infrasound wave field is also important for the verification of the CTBTO. Another good reason is or are technical advances. Sorry. So there's a slide. Technical advances, both in this on the software side. Here we use the PMCC method, and also in the configuration. And here we have recently been using 1/3 octave frequency bands. So we give insights into the results of the latest reprocessing, which now covers 18 years. We also show details of certain patterns in terms of data quality that arise on the one hand during the processing and can be filtered out, and on the other hand, sometimes by the data itself. In this example of the station IS-27, one does not see any noticeable deviations in the color-coded amplitudes. And here the detections of microbarums dominate and match the stratospheric conditions shown in grayscale. And this applies to the vast majority of the stations. So in a few cases, however, we still find inconsistencies in the amplitudes or in the azimuths, the cause of which has not been fully clarified. So maybe in the discussion of video rooms, I'm happy for further discussions on such issues. And finally, I would like to point out that this poster rather focuses on the technical details and advances. If you're also interested in recent scientific applications, you're encouraged to attend the talks and posters indicated here. These talks will be given on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Very kind of you. So while you unshare your screen, we are moving more to the east, and this time to Indonesia. And I believe Mr. Iputi Dedi Pratama is with us now. So if you can hear me, you have the floor, Mr. Pratama. I cannot hear you very well. I'm sorry, I could only hear you a little bit, but very faintly. So maybe we'll move on to the next one. No.
I'm still sharing my screen.
Okay. The sound is a little bit low, so I cannot hear you very well. We can see your slides now.
Okay, thank you. My presentation is about a new PD impact on weather parameter measurement at synoptic observation stations in Bali. In Bali, we have a unique tradition that is called Nyepi.
Mr. Pratama, I'm afraid we are losing you. We do not hear you very well.
Is held in a day. We have called fire. Yeah.
Mr. Pratama, I think because maybe the bandwidth is too low. So if you unshare your screen, you can maybe tell us a little bit about it, but we cannot hear you otherwise.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, so I think it looks like we have technical difficulties. So I'll come back to you, Mr. Pratama, at the end, and hopefully it will work better. So we'll move on to the next poster presenter. So if you can unshare the screen, and then we'll move on to Mr. Konstantino Listovski, and we'll come back to Mr. Pratama at the end.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Konstantino.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sharing the screen, sorry. Up, can you see the slide, perhaps? Or
Not yet.
entire screen, hello. Okay.
It's coming up.
Maybe now you see it.
It is starting.
So I'll start speaking. So this study is about, we are interested in essentially gravity waves, internal gravity waves in the atmosphere and the way they would impact the infrasound propagation. So this is a study done in collaboration with the Max Planck Institute for Meteorology and the LATMOS Laboratory and Goethe University. Can you see the slide now, or?
No, it is not being shown.
Oh.
We are still in starting.
Okay. Sorry. So essentially, I'll continue speaking. So essentially, it's a presentation where we an opportunistic study, I would say, when we are trying to make use of atmospheric field outputs from model simulations in the framework of the Diamond initiative, which is a project dedicated to tropospheric weather with high resolution global models where gravity waves are not parameterized, but essentially explicitly modeled. And so because these models have high model tops, they go, some of them go up to 80 kilometers. We're interested in gravity waves simulated by these models up until the stratosphere. And so we are making some comparisons between these the model outputs and LiDAR comparisons at Observatory de Haute-Provence in France. And we are also trying to characterize some of these gravity waves across the IMS network. And we discuss how we are aiming at quantifying the impact of gravity waves with respect to large-scale effects across the IMS network using those high-resolution global model fields. And so on the poster, you'll see both comparisons with observations and analysis of the gravity waves as modeled by these model outputs. And essentially here, the ICON model, which is the non-hydrostatic high-resolution model developed by DWD in Germany and MPIM, and also discuss how to use these fields to try to quantify gravity wave impact on infrasound propagation across the IMS. Well, that's it basically. Sorry for the slides, but that's essentially the topic which is covered by the poster.
Thank you, Konstantino. So these technical problems remind me that we are live. So of course there are technical problems, and we are the first round table, so we had to have technical problems. And the second thing I want to mention is it's a good reason for all of you that are listening, watching right now to visit the e-posters. There's a link on the main VSNT 2021 portal on the left called e-posters. All the e-posters are ordered by theme and topics, so please go and visit. The poster of Mr. Konstantino Listovski is there. The poster of Mr. Pratama that we could not hear very well just before is also there, as well as all the other speakers that are with us today. So visit their poster, post some questions, vote for them. Please make someone from T1.1 win. I'm counting on you all if you're listening. And okay, I should not say that maybe. And we will be moving on to the next one, which is Alexis Lepichon. Alexis, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so we'll say a few words about our e-poster. So in this presentation, we analyzed the infrasound wave field produced by the 2019 Stromboli eruptions, which produced infrasound waves, which have been recorded widely as far as the infrasound station in Norway, so 3,000 kilometers away from Stromboli. So this is a collaborative work with BGR, UNIFI, University of Firenze, and Toulouse VAC, Volcanic Ash Advisory Centers. So there were many studies which have demonstrated the potential of the IMS network, but also regional infrasound arrays to provide useful information of volcanic eruptions, more specifically when satellite observations cannot be made. So, for example, we have works from Matosa and recent papers by Benoit Tens showing the added value of the infrasound technology to provide not only information about the occurrence of the eruptions, but also source parameters such as plume height. And so we worked on this Volcano because it is well instrumented. So they are infrasound arrays located in the near field operated by UNIFI. And in this study, we run range-dependent propagation simulations in order to predict the arrival times, the duration of the signals, as well as the amplitude. And from all observed infrasound signals, both at infrasound arrays, but also at the seismic Italian network, we are able to reconstruct the source chronology of the source, as well as the amplitude of the source, which is found in the order of a few hundreds of Pascal, well in agreement with near-field observations. And we have applied a grid search approach in order to infer the onset time of the eruptions, which is found with an accuracy of a few seconds compared to the true ones, and the location also is found with an accuracy of a few kilometers, which is compared to location errors of 30 kilometers when considering only the infrasound network. So in this study, we demonstrate the usefulness of air-to-ground coupled waves at seismic arrays, at seismic sensors, more than 100 sensors in Italy, to provide an accurate estimate of the source location.
Thank you, Alexis. So,
yes, so
So
more details can be found in the paper. Yeah.
Yes, I invite you to visit Alexis' poster, but we'll be moving on so that everybody can have 2 minutes to Alexander Nipras, who is in the UK. He's about to tell us all about our poster.
Okay, can you hear me and see the poster?
Can hear you and we can see the poster. Can you put it full screen?
Right, that's the next test. Yes, enter full screen. Okay, is that working okay? Is it gone to full screen?
Oh, it's still in the slide by slide. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, perfect.
Full screen now?
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, great. So my poster is validating signal parameter for infrasound using ground truth analysis. So here on the poster, you can see the locations of the events and the propagation paths. Obviously, we're dominated by Northern Hemisphere events, dominated with things in the Northern Hemisphere. So the premise of this work is that currently at the IDC, you're now starting to use the net visa analysis. So this is using prior probability distributions. So on the left, there are the distributions for celerity, and on the right-hand side here, the back-azimuth deviations. And these are built using the results from the late event bulletin analysis from 2012. And what we want to do is to see if we can help improve these models, because obviously they're biased by the initial models that went in. And so, for example, the celerity range model hasn't been updated now for over 10 years. So we want to look and see if we can make some improvements there. So having looked at the ground truth analysis, if you go to the poster, you can see some examples of the data analysis. And what we've tried to do is use a consistent approach. So we're always picking maximum peak to peak amplitude. We're using a fixed frequency band, so 0.32 to 1.28 hertz. And when we get the results, what we see is that for the celerity range analysis shown on the left, the faded grey there is the LEB results, and then the black crosses are our results. And the step change in the IDC model, there doesn't seem to be evidence for that in the ground truth analysis, although there does seem to be a gradual increase in the celerities with range. So there's perhaps something we can do there to improve the celerity range model. If we look at the back azimuth deviation On the right-hand side, you'll see that for the LEB infrasound only results, it's really peaked there with the black curve. And for the red, that's when it's seismoacoustic results. And when we take this ground truth analysis, as you can see, it's much closer to the back azimuth deviations there for the seismoacoustic results. So in summary then, our InfGem ground truth celerity range models suggest that the current IDC model isn't complex enough close in and is perhaps adding additional complexity at longer ranges. Our back azimuth deviation results using the ground truth data are more consistent with the net visa prior that's built with those seismoacoustic, not the infrasound only events. There are also some duration results for you to have a look at on the poster as well. And obviously we acknowledge that there are a lack of events that are detected at ranges greater than 3,000 kilometers, and that the ground truth database is dominated by those Northern Hemisphere events. But please do ask questions, sort of visit the poster, and I'd be happy to sort of answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. So we will be moving west to the night, and we'll go to Alexandra Yezi. So Alex, you have the floor.
Awesome. Sharing a screen now. Hopefully you can see that. And so I'm actually going to be switching gears quite a bit and going to the very local scale for infrasound, so just a few kilometers away from the source. And this is a synthetic study where we're trying to look at source directionality and how we can recover those using acoustic waveform inversion methods. And this is a study done with Robin Matosa, David Fee, and Ki-Hoon Kim.
So we don't see it full screen, and we see your taskbar as well, so that you know.
Okay, is it big enough, or should I try to fix it?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, sources such as volcanic eruptions and buried chemical explosions have been shown to have directional radiation patterns. And so maybe they don't radiate equally in all directions, such as a monopole source. But we're pretty limited in, especially the vertical direction, to sample the wave fields, because most of our sensors are basically placed on the ground surface. And so what we're recording might be a biased estimate of the source size, so mass flow rate for volcanic eruptions or yield for anthropogenic explosions. And so a lot of times we've been applying acoustic waveform inversion methods to try to characterize the source. And most of the time it's this monopole source that radiates equally in all directions. But increasingly, we're starting to add more complex sources such as the dipole, which allows for potential directionality in the source. However, there's the cautions and limitations of looking at these more robust sources have not been investigated in detail. And so that's what we do in this study, where we perform synthetic acoustic waveform inversions for a variety of both idealized and realistic scenarios, where we vary the number and spacing of stations on the ground, the degree of directionality, so how directional is the source, as well as the signal and noise ratio for the data prior to inversion. And we see how we're able to recover the input monopole and dipole sources. And I'd be happy to talk further.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Very nice. So we'll be moving back to Julien Lagos, who this time will also go on.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Can you see my presentation?
We see it now.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm talking about the tragic Beirut explosion which occurred on August 2020, which caused fatalities and devastated the Lebanese capital. And it is unquestionably an atmospheric event of great interest to test the infrasound component of the EMS network, especially in terms of its capability to locate and to characterize such powerful events. So 5 stations, like said Sandro, detected the explosions up to more than 6,000 kilometers in Cape Verde, with all these stations located to the west of the event due to the stratospheric jet which blows westwards at summertime. In that poster, we give a special focus to the closest IMS detecting station in Tunisia at 2,400 kilometers. And we explain the time frequency detection patterns in detail, which exhibit original features such as the decrease of trace velocities over time, the fast celerities of early arrivals in absence of tropospheric ducts, and also the lack of detections below 0.2 Hz. And we find that these features are associated to both long-range propagation effects, but also incoherent local background wind noise effects. To estimate the acoustic energy of the blast, we propose a methodology to calibrate the gravity wave small-scale structures, and we estimate that the most likely acoustic energy is within the 400-600 tones range, with equivalent yields over 1 kiloton excluded. And it is worth really pointing out that these values are in the lower range of what is found with other technologies, so typically from local seismic magnitude or from local damage evaluation. In terms of localization, the uncertainties using infrasound early stations remain quite high, and this is an intrinsic limitation due to the distribution of the remote detecting stations and the slow propagation medium. However, if only one seismic arrival is used, these uncertainties are divided by a factor of 10 to 50, depending on the number of used infrasound arrivals. And finally, a comparison of the localization obtained from ECMWF analysis at midnight and ECMWF forecast at 3 p.m. the time of the event is also performed, and this provides very interesting unexpected results. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Julien. So we will be moving on to a surprise guest, Quentin Brissot from NASA for one more poster, and then we'll go back to Mr. Pratama if he's still in the call to try again. So Quentin Brissot, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, thank you a lot for accepting me at the last minute. Yeah, I'll be presenting some preliminary results about in collaboration with the FFI, the Norwegian Armed Forces.
Quentin Brissot, sorry, yes. Because Mr. Pratama shared the screen again, so no, we will be having Mr. Brissot first. Can you share again?
Oh, okay, so should I share again? Or
yeah, share again.
Okay, okay. All right.
We see it.
Yeah, so this is a collaboration between Norwegian Armed Forces and NORSAR to investigate the characteristics of artillery infrasound. This project is the long-term goals of this project is addressing this long-standing question of characteristics of local infrasound from similar sources. On the right, for example, is depicting from Daniel Bowman at the last AGU, depicting signals, infrasound waveforms from repeating sources, a few seconds interval. And we observe like significant differences due to local wind effect and temperature effects. We do not want to go as in detail as they did in their study, but provide some qualitative assessment of the dependency of local artillery infrasound based on source characteristics and local weather characteristics. This has implications for defense purposes, but also civilian purposes and conflict monitoring if we have a good assessment of the source. And if we can monitor that in real time. We take advantage of a data set of infrasound and seismic waveforms. So the artillery location in southern Norway, and we have an infrasound array in the south of these artillery locations, and some seismic station deployed nearby. By looking at the entirety of the data set, because the FFI provided us with some ground truth data, we could identify different phases, some of them very clear, on some days with specific ammunition types corresponding to either the impact or the muzzle or even the ballistic phases in some cases, and some days more complex patterns corresponding to differences in weather patterns primarily. You can find all the conclusion in the detail, but we provide some correlations, basic correlations with the signal patterns, especially in terms of dominant frequency, effective velocity in the troposphere that seems to be primarily controlling, especially this tropospheric jet starting at 1 kilometer altitude that seem to control the detectability of the infrasound. And interestingly, we find no correlation with muzzle velocity, so the blast at the source, but we find interesting correlations between the phase type and the characteristic of the infrasound.
Quentin, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you, but we are running out of time because we need to get for the next one. So I will have to call it to a close. I'm sorry. Invite everybody to go in the video room sim 1, and so that all the speakers that we have now can continue and have an ad hoc discussion in the video room sim 1, and you can meet audience. That's where the discussion will continue. I'm sorry, Mr. Pratama, we could not go back to you, but for respect of time, we need to move on. I want to thank all these speakers for being here right now with us, being the guinea pig of the first round table. It went fairly well, I thought. Thank you for this, even though we didn't have so much time for questions. Thank you, Peter, my co-convener, and we made it work somehow. I hope you enjoy this first round table. And I invite everybody to go visit the posters, download them, watch the 2-minute videos, and then join the video rooms to continue the discussion. And with this, about 200. And I was just told now there was 200 viewers online for this roundtable, which is quite good for. I think it's a very good result, better than what we usually have in the scientific session physically in the Hofburg. So very nice to have all of you with us. Thank you. And with this, we will back online. Call it close, and we will be back online with the next roundtable and with some other people in 5 minutes. Thanks a lot, and have a good day. Have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Pierrick.